So last time you and I talked, we talked about pretty much like an introduction to who you are, how you got into scaffolding, what it's like to be a young apprentice, a young journeyman, and kind of your experience through your apprenticeship going into becoming a journeyman, right? So this time, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about scaffolding, some of the negative images or stereotypes, the stigmas that are behind it, and even like your opinion on like the mental health side of it, whether it's like working out of town, like camp, LOA jobs, or other aspects of our work, right? So, obviously, the first one, you've been in the trades now for about 5 years, right? You've gotten, as a scaffolder, you've gotten to work beside electricians, welders, pipe fitters, boiler makers, iron workers,
the whole works,
instrumentations, and like I think that's the one cool thing about scaffolding is we are one of the very few trades that work side by side as a support trade for all the trades, and that's mostly in an industrial setting, right? You won't get that necessarily in a commercial or residential setting, but
for industrial so bad.
In the industrial environment, that's where you're going to see it, right? And so you'll get pretty much an introduction to all the other trades and management, like safety and so on, because of our line of work. So you've seen how other trades conduct themselves. You've seen how other people go about their day-to-day work or just their lives in general on the job. So when it comes to scaffolding, do you think there is a negative image, like from your point of view? Do you think we as scaffolders do have a negative image that's put on us?
It was yes and no. Like I've met scaffolders that own 3 houses, like they're property owners and stuff. Some of them like try and start up a hat company and shit, But then I've met some that like you look at them and you just see that like they're crippling. Like you could just like they're an alcoholic because they smell like booze all the time. So it's like 50-50 really.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm pretty sure it's like every other trade though. Like you got, let's say your normal people, your 9-to-5ers, we'll say.
Okay.
But even it's like cops. It's like everything probably has those bad apples that give it a negative look. Because like look at electricians. A lot of trades would say that like they don't clean up after themselves. They don't fucking
sissies.
Yeah, they're sissies and stuff. But like I've seen some electricians, like he walked up, he was pissed off at a cable. It was like, you're all a bunch of pussies, and by himself grabbed a bunch of cable and did what 10 guys were complaining about.
Yeah.
So like everyone's got their bad apples. There's just scaffolding seems to have like some really bad apples sometimes. So I could see where they get their image from.
What's funny is when we talk about trades who seem to have like good raps, or like a good reputation and a bad reputation. Yeah. The 3 that always have been reoccurring to me is either scaffolders, iron workers, or rod busters, right? And then the boiler makers. When you're talking about trades that are very open about partying, alcohol, drug use, going in and out of divorces.
Yeah,
I've noticed those 3. Those 3 categories are very like, I fucked up, man. Spent my whole paycheck. I'm like, well, how much you spend last night? Well, $4,000. I'm like, and it's Friday and you're broke. Yeah. Spot me $100. I'm like, well, you need groceries.
Right, like I said, there's some pretty bad apples that sometimes give the more negative image off.
So you've had this in a past relationship, and we're not gonna say names, right? Just to avoid any potential drama. But one of your exes, her family is very, very involved in the oil and gas sector. So how did that feel? Because like when you were starting as an apprentice, you were very excited. Like, I'm a hard-working fucking scaffolder. I get out there, I fucking do it. And then you introduce yourself to your girlfriend's parents, and you're like, I'm a scaffolder. How did that feel? And like, what happened? Like with that whole event, like that whole scenario, like when you introduced who you are, what you do for work, do you think that made you feel a little less about what you do, or did that have a negative impact on you and your relationship?
Oh hell yeah! They just assumed I did drugs and stuff, and like I was a delinquent, and I was like, damn, cool, thanks. You know, like, it bothered me a bit because, like, I like scaffolding. I take a lot of pride in what I do and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So for them just to automatically assume right off the bat, it was a little bit of a piss off.
Well, what did they assume? Like, was the drug of choice that you did?
Oh, they always assumed that. Well, they didn't assume. They just asked if I did cocaine a lot.
Yeah?
That was the one question I guess they would ask their daughter most of the time is, does he do cocaine?
Cocaine.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I was like, what an image we got.
Right? Knowing that other people have this image or this stereotype put in place for you, did that have a negative impact with the relationship that you and your girlfriend had, or did that have a really negative impact on the relationship that you could have had with her parents?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't know. At the time, I was still pretty young, but it did piss me off that they would assume that.
Like, but why did it piss you off? Because, like, I know you personally, and a lot of stuff just rolls off your back. Is it because that was someone at the time you were invested in?
Yeah, it was just like...
Or was it because maybe, if you don't mind me asking, you were younger and you didn't really understand at the time, perhaps, why this was such a thought? Like, because, like, when you got into scaffolding, you saw a little bit, like, you were being introduced to it, like, and when I say introduced to it, you were starting to see, like, man, a lot of people, not just in scaffolding, but in the oil and gas sector, or just blue collar workers in general, there are a lot of bad habits, whether it be cocaine, crack, the list goes on.
For sure. It's just, I knew how hard it was to deal with a biased opinion, let's say. You know, because, like, it was same anywhere else, like, whether you're a racist or you don't like the journeymen that fucking harp on the young people that join the trade just because of their age. I was like, I knew it was gonna impose a pretty extra hard challenge because it was a pretty biased opinion on the trade, even though at the time I think I was only doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe give me a little more time to develop these habits and then we'll talk or something. I don't know. But
Let me go to rehab first.
I was like, damn, I just started this shit. Like, I just learned what plum was, okay? And I got punched in the back of the head to learn that shit, all right? Like,
shit.
Right? I was still learning how to do my job.
So for your first time dealing with that, that image being put on you or portrayed about you, did that make you like your job or the trade that you were in less? Like, did that have an impact with your work relationship?
No.
Just no?
No. Because I was used to it already. Like, I have a couple family members that are in the trades and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a scaffolder. They're like, okay. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, so, like, I already knew that everyone had to buy, like, their own opinion that wasn't the best for scaffolders. Whether it be some random person in the trades that are just listing off all the stereotypes they know, or when I tell my family or them, I was like, I already know what people think of scaffolders. Yeah, so I had a feeling it was going to happen anyways, but I was like, damn. It's like, at the time, like I said, it was like 2 years in.
Yeah.
Like, I just learned how to use a tape measure and shit. Like, come on, guys.
You just started to learn measurements.
Yeah, I didn't have time to do anything else. I had to learn knots, like sit in my room and tie this shit. I didn't know what I was doing. I was focused doing other stuff.
He used to take a rope back to his camp room and he would practice his knots because he sucked at
it. Sit
it
in my
so
room
bad.
and I would tie it around my foot.
That sounds so bad. I'd take a rope back to my camp room. Like it sounds so dark when you say it like that. I sucked at tying knots, so I took a rope back to my room.
Oh yeah.
It's just like it gives you a bad image. You're like, oh my god, this poor boy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put it in my bag either. It'd just be in my hand and I'm walking through the camp hallway. I got 8 feet of rope in my hand. Just walking into my room.
So bad when you say it out loud like that. Oh, man.
Oh, imagine what it looked like. Just some random guy. I'm like, I got this rope in my hand and I'm going to my room.
The plumbing won't hold you. Oh my god. I'll probably not put that in the video. We'll see. With our line of work, and it's not just like scaffolders, like almost every trade that is, it doesn't even have to necessarily be industrial. Like commercial and residential workers will experience this too, but people like yourself and me that are in the oil and gas sector, we work a lot in camp, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not even just camp. Sometimes you'll be out on a job site in the middle of buttfuck nowhere for 16, 18 hours a day with like one bar, no bars of service, or you'll be working in and out of hotels. And once again, you're doing long hours. Like if you're lucky, it's like an 8-hour day and you're like, this is awesome. And then some asshole tells you like, no, we got other stuff to do.
Right? 8 hours turns into another 8 hours after that.
So with our line of work, Does being gone from either friends, family, or a significant other, whether it be out of town for the day, working anywhere from 8, 16 plus hours in a camp or in a hotel, does that have a negative impact on your relationships, friendships, or even your own well being?
Definitely on relationships.
How so? Like, what would you say, and how would it impact a relationship?
Oh, they hated me being away because it'd be for so long at a time. Like it'd be from a minimum of 14 week or 14 days,
To
and then
3
sometimes
months?
they would get a phone call, and be like, "Yeah, I'll see you in a couple months." Like we're long hauling out here and shit.
Yeah.
It's like my shit would be there, but I wouldn't be. Yeah, it was always rough on relationships for sure. My family wasn't that bad because like a lot of them were in the trades or truck drivers, so they know what it's like not to be home. So they already had an understanding of that.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather, people would be like, "You heard from Matt?" He's like, "Ah, he's doing his thing. He's working," and that's all he would say, I guess. So like they were used to it, but definitely relationships.
Do you think it's harder for someone in a relationship who's not used to the camp life, hotel, like just blue collar life in general? Like, let's say, for example, a girlfriend of yours, her dad was maybe a doctor or something, so he's home every night, right? Or maybe mom works as a teacher, so like her parents were always home, and she's never had to experience someone being gone for, like you said, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even 16 weeks at a time, with only maybe 2-3 days in between that here and there to come home.
Yeah, no, they don't. That's something that you can like. They're definitely not used to because it puts a lot of strain on the relationship.
Do you think? Do you think that makes a relationship, like the quality time you have when you come home, better, or does it make it worse?
Well, during the start, because they're happy when you're home, but like there was always that little bit at the end of the week when you're like, you got to go back to work. You can see they get a little bit grumpy. Because sometimes, like I said, they don't know if you're going to be gone for 14 days, or like they get a phone call saying you're staying for an extra 3 weeks, or especially when you got to give them that phone call saying you're not going to be home for an extra 3 weeks. Whoa, that's a tough one.
So here's one for you. So you're working out of town, right? And relationship stuff put aside, do you think it was harder for you also being out of town when you see, like, let's say it's summertime, your friends are out barbecuing, tubing down a river, going boating, maybe going to a concert, music festival, like, just doing things and enjoying their lives, but here you are working your fucking bag off in, let's say, 30 degrees Celsius and warmer weather?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, there's working your bag off and it's really hot out, but like I'm outside, I'm getting paid to do all my shit, so like it never really bothered me. There's like, yeah, those little points where like, let's say like concerts weren't always my thing, but like maybe tubing down a river or something, I'd be like, damn, I wish I was there for that one.
So you never felt like you were really missing out in a sense?
No, I like traveling. So like, first of all, that's one thing I loved most about scaffolding is like, sometimes you could be working in BC, sometimes you could be working all the way in Saskatchewan. Like I like driving, I like traveling. That part was always fun.
So that was a good toss up for you.
Yeah, no, that excited me. Like my first time at camp, I was nervous, but like I was like, it was an adventure. I got to drive somewhere and work outside, out in the bush. Like I love building tree forts and shit when I was a kid.
Lego.
Yeah. So now here I am, instead of trying to like use this old piece of fucking wood and nail it to a tree and hope I stand on it and it don't break. I'm doing it with a right angle and a tube.
Yeah. For you, is it better for your mental health, or like just the quality of the job and like your experience with it? Is it better to be at a job for a few months, like chasing shutdowns, or do you like the longevity and consistency of a long-term like maintenance job? Like, for example, when we were working at IPL, we were there for almost 2 years.
See, but that was a different time because I was like really young and living with grandma and grandpa. So fuck yeah, I loved working there.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. It was like, didn't matter if it was day shift or night shift. It was day shift. I was coming home. Grandma had like spaghetti and meatballs or like steak or something
You were
cooked.
eating good.
Or like when I went to night shift, she would always wake up and there was like bacon and eggs. Like there was breakfast when I got home. That was also my favorite thing about being young and scaffolding. Is like I didn't even have to ask. My grandpa was like, "Yeah, come live with us," and I was like, "Fucking right, so I'm gonna go live with grandma and grandpa." You pass that up, you're an idiot.
If you can get your German ticket at a young age, and your parents or grandparents or whoever that you have as like family support are okay with you living there, and you can set yourself up good financially where you can move out and have a nice savings. It doesn't have to be a brand new vehicle, but like a good functioning vehicle. right? Or even like enough money for a down payment on a house and then rent rooms out, whatever it be. I think that's a really good approach for the younger generation coming in. Because when I was about your age, I didn't even fucking hesitate. The moment I graduated, I moved out. I was like, I'm living on my own. I'm a fucking baller. And like looking back, I was like, I bought a brand new truck. Like every fucking idiot when they get their first big couple paychecks.
I got my second year ticket and bought a brand new truck.
Yeah, I wasn't even a second year. I was a first year and I bought mine. I do agree with you. I think if there's a way, especially if you were a younger person getting into the trades, like fresh out of high school, stay at home. Like if I could give any advice, and I think you too, there's no need to rush and go live on your own or go live like wherever. Like save up and put yourself in a good financial position, especially when you decide like whatever trade you're in, you're like, I'm gonna go to school, because that 2 months, like especially for like a real trade, right? Like that 2 months where you have to either save up and have savings to go to school and then wait for EI to kick in after, and you're getting back paid by the time you're done school. It's a kick in the cock. So I would rather see people at 22, 23 coming out as fucking ticketed journeymans and being like, yo, I can live quite comfortably where I'd like to.
Right.
Rather than, you know, making first year rate and penny pinching.
Yeah, oh man, especially like as a first year. Yeah, no. Stay at home or something like that. Build up the savings or like get another ticket or something like that, because especially with inflation, making like, well, I started at like $25 an hour. I see some apprentices that are still first years making that, and like, fuck, I don't think making car payments is possible for them when like...
It was hard, man. When I was, that's gonna sound bad. So I was a first year and I was dating this girl, the original, like I was young, like 18, 19 at the time, right? And I was making $24.73 or something an hour, I think is what it was, because I was with Steeplejack, and once you had been there, like you could actually get your pay increase. They used to do that. I don't know if they do it anymore. So I was making at the time as a first year, like what I thought was pretty decent money, especially because like I was getting paid double time, right? Double time back then was huge. Like my paychecks almost equated to what I made as a journeyman in 2018.
Damn.
Right? Like, what I made in 2018 as a ticketed journeyman, I was making as a first year when I first started, right? Like the pay was identical. So I was dating this girl, and you know, like our agreement at the time was, you pay for the groceries, I'll take care of everything else, right? And I did that working at the pulp mill for a little while, but I was like $50 every 2 weeks to my name. I was broke, like fucking broke. So I had to make a choice, go to camp or fucking continue this, because like there's no savings. Like, if the truck breaks down or anything goes, I'm fucked.
You're fucked
and I gotta either ask mom or someone to fucking bail me out. So I made the choice, Kate, I'm gonna work in camp, 14 and 7, 21 and 7, and that became like my normal. Like I became very like, this is good, because like I don't have to pay for fucking food. I don't have to worry about a gym membership. All of those things that I enjoy, it's right there, right? So I became almost institutionalized, because that became like my life. It was very structured and it was routine. It was day in, day out, and that for me was life. Like that was the perfect existence. But it was difficult because I had to make sure that all of our means were covered as a first year. If I have to be gone to provide for everyone, you're probably only going to see me 2 or 4 days out of the month. And that's the reality of it, right? For essentially me to put our combined wages together just based on a 40-hour work week, I need to work double the workload I'm doing. It's going back to what we talked about prior, is not everyone can get on board with that. Not everyone's going to be like, well, my man is gone on a 24 and 4. Like, you've experienced it and I experienced it. I fucking hate working out of town. I hate it. Most of the time the camp food sucks. There's a good amount of time where like there's days like, or fucking stretches of days where I'm just miserable. And I'm like, were you surprised when you got into the workforce how like normalized drugs or alcohol was?
Not really, no.
No?
No, I got a family of trades workers, so I already knew.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It didn't shock you at all to see guys would just do it right there on the job site sometimes?
No.
I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, you guys aren't even fucking discreet, man. Like, you're just right there, center console in the truck, out in the middle of the unit. Like,
right.
Yeah. At least go to the porta potty and do it off your phone. Fuck.
Right. And I already knew there's gonna be stuff like that would definitely be happening in front of me.
I must have been just an oblivious little shit, especially when I first got into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's funny because, like, to me, the amount of people, for example, that drink or do coke, like that, a lot of people think that's a very huge part of it. But then the amount of people that take steroids.
That part surprised me.
Right?
That part when I walked in and everyone's just jacked and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, y'all like working out? And then I found out everyone was juicing and I was like, so you're telling me like just pretty much everyone uses steroids out here?
Right? And
that part got
it's mind-boggling because when you think of steroids, you think of like just bodybuilders, big fitness nuts. But then you go into like the blue-collar workforce and you're like, you just look like a big farm boy. Like,
right?
You're massive.
I remember hearing things in the lunchroom that I didn't know. They're like, yeah, I'm on Tren and D-ball and all this. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm like Googling shit when everyone's leaving. I'm like, what the fuck did I just hear? I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. And then like I hear they're like, yeah, fucking roids. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're telling me everyone who looks like they got a D-sized pec here is just juicing? Right? I was like, fuck, that's new. And
they talk about it so openly.
Yep.
Right?
That too. I was like, wait, what?
If you compare it to like the gym environment, people are very hush-hush. But then you go on a job site and it's like, yo, man, what are you running? Oh, Deca, D-ball, draw. Like, they just start firing all this shit off and you're like, just like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, it's like, I had a few beers last night. It's like the same conversation. It's like, there's no give a fucks.
I'm like, I don't know what any of this is, but is that why you're so big?
Like, steroids started at a young age for me. Like, I was like, 17, I think, at the time. And it had a lot to do with this girl. Like, I was really interested in this girl, and her fucking first words, like, when I asked her to be my girlfriend, is, I don't date skinny guys, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, that summer, I fucking bought D-ball, right? And I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna be the biggest motherfucker in my grade. And I put on like 20 pounds over the summer. Right? And I felt like I was a jacked 165, 170 pound motherfucker at 5'11". I was like, oh, I'm fucking huge. Right?
Yeah, I'm just
but
massive.
I also realized that with steroids, there became a very psychological part of my brain that became hooked on it. And a lot of guys don't like talking about this because the best way to say it is, why be Clark Kent when I could be Superman? That's the truth, though, right? Because when
you took your glasses off for it, though.
But when you think about it, no, you just snort.
The way to sell that one, you're saying off. Why be Clark Kent when you could be Superman?
But this is my thought behind it. It's like when a lot of guys go on steroids, they like the feeling of being strong.
Yeah.
Right. They have, like, and a lot of guys get what I call a God complex, and it's true. Right? You've seen me on job sites where I am very irritable, where I'm very fucking quick to snap, and I can admit that's on me. That's sometimes that's me.
Sometimes I lose my cool.
Yeah, sometimes I lose my cool a little bit. But a lot of guys in our line of work, and it's not necessarily scaffolding, it could be like any other fucking trade. A lot of guys are juiced up. Yeah. And whether that's because it, for me, it was an insecurity issue, and I can fucking say that because I don't give two shits who says what. Like, my face is tattooed. Obviously, I'm insecure. But
self-roast, hey?
So, like, I noticed in my time being in the oil and gas sector, just in the trades, there are a lot of people who do various drugs for various reasons, whether it's insecurity, socializing, or normalizing. And I made a lot of friends over the years, or acquaintances, where I would do coke with them, and I would do a lot. Like, the worst night I ever had, like, us being from Grand Prairie, I always referred to coke as a zip. That's what I knew cocaine to be called by. Hey, can I get a half zip? Can I get a zip? Right? And at the worst possible point in my life, I was doing like 14 grams in a night.
That's rough.
Right? And I went from weighing like 200 pounds and then like 200 fucking pounds down to like 150, 145 from doing coke so much. Like, that's I got fucking really skinny. Yeah. But I didn't believe it. I didn't see it because, well, I was like, oh, I'm not working out. I'm not eating. Yeah. So I wore bigger clothes to hide it. And then one day I moved back to Edmonton, and one of my roommates, his name is Brandon, he just stared at me. He's like, you look like you do crack. And I was like, what? He's like, from a couple of months ago when I saw you to now, he's like, you are skinny. Yeah. And I stood in front of a mirror, and it was just like ribs. Oh, shit. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, I am really skinny. So I hung out with a lot of people in scaffolding that we had normalized our use of drugs.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were friends, because we would sit around a table for hours and hours at night, sitting there and just chopping line after line. And it got to the point where it went from doing little dingers to like a quarter bag to a half bag to like I'm doing a full bag and a rip.
Next thing you know, it looks like you just laid down a cigarette size worth of a line, and you're just that's like a starter for you.
Yeah. Like, I used to never leave the house at one point unless I had a ball on me.
Yeah.
Right? And that was my normal. Like, I couldn't socialize without drugs. Like, I couldn't. I wouldn't go out to a music festival or a club if I wasn't fucking chomping down on, like, a gram of Molly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, fucking 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock... I'm T-Rex. I'm just walking around like I am fucked up out of my tree. Yeah. Like I'm royally fucked. And I think that was also a really bad thing about scaffolding for me, is because I had that money and I knew I was getting paid every week. It didn't matter. I was like, it's only fucking 5 more days till payday. So yeah, here's $800.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had a weekend one time where I $3,500. Gone. I got paid Friday, I was broke, or I got paid Thursday, I was broke Friday.
Yeah.
And then I have to fucking text everyone I know, hey, can you spot $100? Because I don't have money for groceries, I don't have money for gas, I don't have money to pay any of my bills.
Fucking broke.
And so I'm broke for the next 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Because I have to pay people back because I have no self-control.
Yeah. Those are some learning experiences, we like to call them.
And a lot of people, like, they'll look at me because, like, my teeth are a certain way or whatever. They're like, this ain't true. And it's like, I had certain issues with certain drugs for a period of time, but the worst one for me was alcohol, right? Like, Coke at one point, it was like a switch went off in my head, and I was like, I'm just done with it. I hate fucking that crash I get. I hate feeling like a loser. I hate seeing how fast my bank account drains.
Yeah.
But alcohol was that one that always stayed around. And I could always justify drinking. That was never an issue with me. Like, ever. And I realized if alcohol was in the picture, other things were in the picture. Like, one time, I was so fucked up on Coke, I bought a bag off a guy and didn't realize I bought a bag of meth.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I was sitting there, and I was like, it was green and glossy, and it was like really flaky, and I was like...
Fuck it, whatever.
Yeah, and then I was so fucked up, man. Like, I hadn't slept in like a few days.
Yeah.
I'm looking, I'm like, it's probably just really shitty blow.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it wasn't. But with alcohol though, I found that it is so normalized and so socially expected. And then I'll give you scenarios. Let's say, for example, it's summertime and I'm moving. I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm going to make a post. I'm moving, looking for a couple of buddies with some trucks. What's the first thing they're going to always offer?
Yeah.
Pizza and beer.
Pizza and beer, yeah.
Right? You come help me move. We're going to drink beer and eat pizza.
Yeah.
And if you're a dumbass like myself, you're going to be drinking and driving all day. And that's what I did. I'm not even bragging about it. It's embarrassing looking back. Like, before I got my DUI, I should have been fucking arrested so many times over for how fucking dumb I was. Like, I would get so fucking drunk. It went from the point of putting my thumbs up to gauge the highway, and at some point I'd be too drunk to do that, so I just put my head on the steering wheel like this. And if I felt myself fucking shimmy, I knew I wasn't straight anymore. Like, that's how bad I was. Yeah. And I always told myself, I'm not hurting anyone else. Like, if I get into an accident, if I fold my truck or something, or if I roll it, nobody else is getting hurt but me.
Yeah.
Right? And looking back at it, is like, that was like the most selfish, negative way to think, because I had no control at that point. Like, what happens if I fucking black out behind the wheel, which I had multiple times. Right? I woke up by pump jacks. I woke up in the ditch. I rolled a truck before. Yeah. And every time I was so fucking lucky that nobody was ever on the receiving end. And it's crazy to me because we normalize so many of these substances, whether it's Coke, whether it's fucking meth, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we have normalized them because we continue to reinforce doing them with these acquaintances. And I wouldn't necessarily call them friends, because I don't think friends intentionally or want you to sit there and throw your life away recklessly or sabotage yourself. But it's easy with an acquaintance who will help you normalize your substance abuse. Yeah. And that, unfortunately, is a very harsh reality in our line of work, I think, is we have work buddies, and these work buddies will also be party buddies. Yeah. And it's very easy to be like, yeah, we're super tight, but you take alcohol out of the equation altogether. How much do you guys actually have in common? Yeah. When you're sitting there trauma bonding or making a trauma pact around a fucking table. Yeah. So in your experience, do you think depression is something to be concerned about in the trades?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of depressed people at work. Some hide it better than others, but like you always see it when it's around.
So if you don't mind me asking, like what were some like the low points for you in scaffolding or like just in your work career, like with depression? Was it like, if you're comfortable talking about it?
Like, I guess the hardest part would be like, fucking, you're sitting in the lunchroom in the middle of nowhere and you're going through a breakup. You know, like you're texting back and forth and shit, but you gotta keep your cool in the middle of the lunchroom, but on the inside you're just like fucking raging or whatever it is you're going through. But like you're 400 kilometers away at a lunchroom or in a fucking hotel or a camp room somewhere and you're going through a breakup. And most of the time you just get back and your shit's like they're separated, their shit's gone and you're just by yourself.
The house is cleaned out.
Yeah, which is how it probably ends for pretty much most of them, because if you're gone for 2 weeks at a time, like I doubt someone's gonna be like, you know what, I'll wait to break up with you when you're home. Most of the time they do it when you're away.
It's easier.
Less awkward. Yeah, it's just pack your shit up and go and they come back to an empty place.
I think that's the worst, is especially when your name is still on that lease. Yeah. And you walk in there and the house is empty, right? Like your bed's there, the TV, the couch that you guys sat on, the fucking same plates and cups and like the table, all that stuff that you have all these memories with. Now you are stuck by yourself alone. Oh, and like that's the worst neighborhood you can be, is because you're stuck in here between your ears and your thoughts. And every negative thing is going through your head. Like, I'm a failure. I didn't do this. I wasn't tentative. Maybe I should have been home more. Maybe I should switch careers.
Oh, hell yeah. You're thinking about everything you did wrong. Right? And it fucking sucks.
And then you reach out to them and you're trying to talk to them. And the next thing you know, they're out living their best life. Yep. Right? And they've already moved on. Like, they've already either hooked up with someone or... And it's not to say that you are a better person necessarily. Because, like, if you're like me... I use sex as a coping mechanism. The second I go through a breakup, I am fucking on the prowl because I don't want to deal with like what's going on here. Yeah. So it's easier to find some sort of, I don't want to say relief, but a way for me to mask and not deal with what I'm going through emotionally by having some sort of sexual relationship with a random or multiple randoms, right? Yeah. And not healthy at all. And all it does is it created a very toxic fuckboy mindset for me. And then when a healthy person would come into my life, I am stuck in this very unhealthy rut that I've done for myself. And I think that's like one of the worst things, is like going back to what I was saying. Like, you come home to an empty house and at first you're mad. You're like, fuck, nothing's where I left it. But then once you kind of settle in, and it's like your first night sleeping back in that house, you just break down. Yeah. You fucking cry and cry and cry. And you don't even want to fucking text anyone. You don't want to talk to no one. You're borderline ready to delete all social media and just disappear off the face of the earth. Like, you are having... I don't want to say necessarily for everyone, but in my case, man, I was like having like life-altering decisions. Like, do I still want to fucking exist after I invested so much of myself into this relationship? And as selfish as that sounds, it feels like I lost not just half of me, but I lost more than that, right? Like, I lost a part of my identity. I lost a part of my self-worth and values and my beliefs. And it's a hard one to fucking cope with. Right. Is like going through a breakup when you're at work and then coming home to nothing. Yeah. Right? Especially like, I couldn't imagine having kids and going through that. Like, I've had animals, right? Like dogs or cats, and I come home and they're gone. Yeah. And I'm like, man, the one cool thing is, even if you and I got into a fight, at least I had the dog to chill with, and now I don't even have that.
Now that's gone. You're gone. It's like everything sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Or then like they forget something at the house, right? And you're like, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk to them. And they don't fucking want to talk to you, or someone else comes to grab it, and you're like,
Yeah.
Fuck, like, do I mean that little to you that you wouldn't even want to talk to me? I think that is incredibly difficult. And it's hard to say really what it is, right? Like, is it the lifestyle? Is it I was, not a good partner? Was I not tentative? Like, sometimes a lot of these questions go unanswered.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do because you're never going to get that answer.
Well, you got nothing but time to think about it. Like, either it's a long plane trip to work, like back to work, it's a long drive back to work. You get time to think about it. You're not going to not think about it. Or like sometimes you got to hop on a bus and it's a 30-minute bus ride to work. Well, now you got time to zone out and hate your life about that. Well, in our trade, you have nothing but time to think about your life too. Even when you're like at work, sometimes like that operator's like, yeah, you got about 45 minutes before I can get you that permit. Well, if you're just going through a breakup, guess what you're thinking about for the next 30 minutes in the corner while everyone waits?
You know what's one of the worst things when you're in camp, especially with a breakup or like in a hotel job, is every morning. So like I wake up at like, let's say 5 or 5:30. Okay.
Yeah.
I give myself about 10-15 minutes, brush my teeth, get dressed, and a good morning text.
Yeah.
Like I love you. I hope you had a good sleep. I hope you have a wonderful day at work. Please drive safe.
Yeah.
Like, like your paragraph text that's almost
that's
fucking
like that's
scripted.
That's how you're gonna not think about it, because you're gonna wake up, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's right, I don't get that text anymore because of this. Well, now your next drive or bus ride to work, you're thinking about it. Or usually you're like on your break, you text it. Well, you can't do that anymore, so now you're gonna think about it.
And you become it's like an unhealthy obsession, especially when like you were like head over heels in love with this person, and you're like going back through all the text messages, you're reading them, like, where did I go wrong, what did I do, like what, especially when you're not given any answers and it just happens out of the blue like a fucking sucker punch. You don't know, right? And like that's the worst. So you're going through all these, and you don't fucking delete the number. That's the worst thing, right?
Yeah,
you don't delete the number.
That you
don't fucking block them. And then if you do block them, there's a part of you that unblocks them, because you have to know, like, did you unblock me? Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Did you move on? Because you need that closure.
Yeah.
Right? And you're I don't know about you, but like there was times when I'd go through breakups where I'd hold on to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? And it took me a long time to let go of those things. Yeah. And I was so quick too to let an ex come back into my life after they had fucking flipped my world upside down and put it into shambles. I'd be like just getting my foot out the fucking door to go in a positive direction. It's like, hey, I'm back. I'm like, absolutely. And I close that door.
I'm ready for that. Let's
go. I was ready to heal, but I'm ready for toxic.
Right.
One really unhealthy trait I ended up developing is I'd go through really bad breakups, and I'd go through really toxic environments or settings in my life, and instead of finding a way to take a step back and dissect it and learn from it, be like, okay, what are the negatives? Okay, this didn't work out because of this.
When you're young, you don't think of it like that at all.
And then no, you don't.
No, you don't.
And that's something you learn as you get older. It's like, okay, what can I look at this as a positive? Like, what can I take away from this really bad event and use as a positive to push myself in a better direction?
Yeah.
And that's something I learned in the last couple of years. But that was something I never would have thought of. And what I ended up doing is I would nosedive into work. And sometimes I would delete all my social medias and I would just focus on work. And I went all in, 24/4, 21/7.
Yeah.
And on my days off, it was like I was at the gym 6 or 8 hours a day, just so I wouldn't fucking get caught up in things. And did it help in a sense? Yes. But it was just like a Band-Aid.
Yeah,
I just put in a Band-Aid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't fucking do anything. It was, I might as well just like man up, quit being a bitch and suppress it, because that's essentially what I did. Is I fucking, instead of dealing with the emotions and the struggles I was going through, I fucking shut down.
You just occupied yourself in a way where you wouldn't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. I found a way to keep myself busy up here, which is work. And I think it's a good thing to stay busy, because obviously you can't stop life. You still have financial obligations and responsibilities.
Yep.
But you need to find a way to take time for yourself and work through those traumas, work through those emotions, because if you don't, it's just gonna fucking sabotage you down the road, whether it be another relationship or whatever endeavors you make in the future. It's going to fuck you.
Yeah.
If there was something you could change in our workforce, something you'd like to see improve, what would that be?
Excellent question.
Whether it's men or women who struggle being first responders, blue collar, like what is something that you would like to see us as the workers or even the company kind of improve on to improve the quality of our lives or the overall quality of the job to make people want to be around and stick around?
I'm gonna let you know, this is like a Gandhi type question. This is a really good question. I don't think I've ever actually looked at it that way. I guess like just more belief in the younger generation.
That you guys actually want to work.
Yeah, well, I guess like it's always so weird when they're like, "Oh, your generation don't want to work. Your generation don't want to do this," but they're yelling at the kids standing on the exact same scaffold doing the same job as them underneath them. It's like it would make more sense if you went to like a fucking McDonald's or something. It was like you don't want to fucking work or this and that. Like even though it don't make sense, it would make more sense to do it that way. Then like you look at this kid, you're like, your generation don't want to work. You don't want to do this. Meanwhile, he's 100 kilometers back in the bush, same as you. I'm like, you're kind of like yelling at the wrong kid there.
Calling the kettle black.
Yeah, you know, you're looking at a kid who's there doing the work that you're saying his generation doesn't do. It's like that one. As like growing up and going through the trades, I hated hearing that. They're like, your generation don't want to work. I'm like, cool, so what the fuck am I doing here then? I'm like, there's a lot of us that want to do it, but the rare ones you see, they just yell. They're like, your generation don't do this, they don't do that. And I'm like, we're here, man.
My biggest one, because I've experienced this twice, is we talk a lot about if you are struggling mentally or emotionally, come forward, talk to us, you can find to us, right? And I've done this twice where I was at a complete breaking point and you were there at one of them, where I was, about a year into like getting sober and I was struggling. I was really fucking struggling. So I come forward and I'm like, this is where I'm at. Like I'm borderline ready to relapse. I have fucking been trying so hard not to blow my fucking brains out in my own house because like I am so fucking goddamn depressed. So the company at the time gives me like a week or 2 weeks off of work and I'm still struggling. And I was very honest and transparent about it. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting laid off.
Yeah, that's a kick in the dick. Yeah,
right. I hate how some companies will sit there and say that we as a company appreciate you and respect your production, and we will have your best interests. But then when you come forward, when your times are hard,
they don't have your best interests.
They don't.
Yeah,
right?
No.
And you could be the guy who fucking shows up every day, who takes the extra initiatives, the extra steps. You could be the guy who says yes to overtime all the time, regardless of what your personal or at-home life needs of you. Yeah. You could be that guy. And then to find out that all this time and effort and energy you invested in the company just to find out you're just another fucking number.
Yeah, they just focus on that one bad week you had.
It's like, oh, you haven't been here for a week, 2 or 3 because you're struggling. Well, here's your layoff. And it's like,
even though you put in how many hours before that doing good.
It's like, man, I lost relationships for you guys. I lost a lot of things. I never bitched about it. And I fucking kept coming. Yeah. And then I hit the fucking wall that put me on my ass. And you guys aren't helping. And I brought it to your attention. I think that for me was when I came to the point in my career where I'm going to give you an honest day's work. But I'm not going to go above and beyond unless you go above and beyond.
Yeah, that's one thing I like that I learned young. Like when I first started, it was like go hard retard and shit like that, to impress. Mm-hmm. But if you can do just as much impressing, just keeping the same pace as everyone else. Yeah. You don't need to like shine extra to be a superstar. If you just keep up with everyone else, then you're a good worker.
Yeah. Like regardless of what pace or speed you work at, once the job's done, there's another one waiting for you.
Yeah. Everyone's going to get laid off at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be my boss on one job, I'll be your boss on another job. Like, it all switches around.
Yeah.